Hey guys, Cycrafter here. Today I am back in another episode of Anime vs. Reality, where I took a 2-week break for season 2 in case people wanted to go and watch season 2 before I got to it this week. And once again, I got more apples to enjoy while doing this. Good apple. If I remember correctly, season 2 has 12 episodes, so today I'll be going through episodes 1 through to 4 of season 2 today. Let's get this started because I have stuff I want to get to later on today. So, we start off with Holo. Oh, okay. My thing was teleporting across my own screen. And Holo wakes up in the middle of a snowy plain, a bit of the dude, although that's common for her to do, and is instantly encountered by her brethren and Craft on either side of her. When she runs to Craft, he disappears, leaving a skeleton in his place, and the environment disintegrates into red, revealing it's all a dream. Awake, Holo tells Craft she was dreaming of her hometown Yoitsu, and that she's hungry. Craft wants Holo to put her tail back under the blanket, and she gets annoyed that he's wanted to use her tail to keep warm, which I get the fact that she's getting annoyed because it's like part of her body, but also you're helping someone keep warm. He gets her excited for a present, which turns out to be 3 feathers for a hood. While Holo just sits there annoyed at the present, and Craft explains that the next stop, Kumasan, I think it's pronounced, is owned by European nobles and full of heathens. Not much of a surprise. Wouldn't that be most Europe towns? The town has banned any religious symbols, a rule followed by even the nuns and monks. Holly turns her back to Craft and starts rocking back and forth to purposely bump into Craft just out of pure annoyance. The next day, Holo is getting tired because they haven't arrived at Kumasan yet, yawning in the way that her butt is pointed in the direction of the shot. I even took a screenshot of that and put it on the... I don't know where I put it. I don't know. Where is it? Yeah, if you guys want to see the picture at the moment that I'm talking about, go down in the, scroll down in the stream and you'll find the Discord. Because it's quite a shot. Craft says they'll be arriving at Kumasan soon, meaning Holo will be free from hard bitter rye bread and gruel made from that bread. Doesn't sound too delicious. I like this apple. The town is also in the middle of a festival, meaning there'll be many types of food for Holo to try. Holo asks if Craft's wallet will be okay, to which he says there's enough money to buy her food. Craft doesn't want she doesn't want Craft to use buying food as an excuse to cheap out on the inn they stay in. Craft's quick to fire back against the one bed comment by saying Holo snores rather loudly and says Holo's not his time. It's like, we do get a later example of Holo's loud snoring. Holo recovers from his comment by saying Kraft seems to like weaker women, comparing it to a princess and a knight, reminding him of the Trini Silver incident where he acted like a knight once to protect her. Kraft apologizes for what he said earlier when Holo attacks him by pushing against him again, and Holo says she doesn't mind if the room only has one bed. The two pass through a small trading post where Holo asks for some prime fish and have it cooked for them. But the fish seller is just all out of fish. The fish seller asks if Kraft is a traveling merchant, and Kraft answers he came from Ruvenhagen, which hopefully that's the last time I have to mention it before I get to the reboot. I don't think it is, though, because I did write these notes myself. So the fish seller tells him of a lake half a day away that has good carp. However, Kraft says it's for dinner, and the fish seller figures he'll be staying in Kumasan tonight. Kraft explains that he and Holo are here for the Grand Winter Fair and the Redora Festival, but learns that all the inns are booked because the Redora Festival is popular, so there's no rooms. So he instead figures he could try asking the Rowan Trading Guild that he belongs to, which the fish seller, whose name is Fermi Amati, belongs to as well. Introducing Fermi to Holo, he's taken aback by her beauty, and when he notices the feathers in Holo's hood, Kraft says that Holo is a nun on a pilgrimage. Every time I take a bite of an apple, it just feels like I'm doing a bite by myself from Pirates of the Caribbean 3. Fermi says he'll help Kraft and Holo get a room by pulling some strings with his business acquaintances so they can enjoy good fish at the trading partners inn. After quickly getting them a room, Kraft and Holo come back down to thank Fermi for the help, with Fermi getting enamored by Holo's beauty again, which Holo plays up to rile up Fermi. Holo returns to her usual self in time for dinner, which Kraft makes note of, as the two discuss Fermi's business sense for such a young kid, especially since he was dealing in an above average amount of goods. Interesting. Holo says that Kraft should be dealing in more interesting goods, reminding him of the Ruvenhagen flop. Kraft answers that while he does have plain stuff, it should yield decent profit, and he's not carrying only boring things because Holo's with him. It's like, wow. Way to value your traveling partner in a way that's like similar to jewelry. Holo gets a laugh at Kraft's expense for him forgetting he ordered another drink a minute ago and says she can't stand him expecting her to fall for the same flurry every time. She then calls him a fool because if she acts upset, he'll be nice to her, as men should be, apparently. Just sexism just layered throughout the entire show. Focusing on the wine, Holo says it's a pale wine, and Kraft explains it's called burning wine. Holo sculls her entire mug, calling it a nostalgic flavour, and says it reminds her of the wine in Yoitsu, before finishing the rest. She's also instantly drunk from the wine. Meaning Kraft has to carry her back to bed so she can sleep in the office. So it's like... it's like me going out a bottle of sake. I would get so hammered so quick from that. While she's sleeping and mentions Yoitsu, Kraft remembers overhearing a little boy ask their mum what happened to Yoitsu village. Although I think at that point in this, like that particular detail of the story is way before anything else, I think. I think like it's like years before or something. The next morning, Holo looks like she's died from the wine, but her ear movement indicates she's still alive. Kraft got her some water and a bucket just in case she needed it, and tells her not to be anxious about the Redora Festival as the real events start tomorrow. Leaving her to rest, Kraft goes to do business in the market, meeting with Mark Cole, who was talking to a man about the tales of the god of Pitora Mountain, which I don't think we even get to explore in the show, but it's again like world building. That's why I like to go over everything in detail, because it's world building, not just the story. And there's been a lot less research because it's like not really research heavy content, like research worthy content. Kraft says there's merit in being able to communicate with foreign languages, to which Mark responds that if he didn't talk everyone into deals, he'd be scolded by Adele. And no, don't confuse that with the singer. It's spelled with 2 L's, not 1 L. Getting straight to business, Kraft states he bought nails from Ruvenhagen, which annoys Mark because he runs a wheat store. It's like, wheat. I sell wheat. How does nails fit with wheat? Knowing Mark's customers mostly come from the north, Kraft tries to sell him on the fact that nails are required goods to last a long winter. Mark understands what Kraft is getting at, asking what he has, which is 120 free pates. I don't know how to pronounce that word. I'm actually like... Okay. Oh, it's just cat? Okay. Apparently it's a French word. Didn't know that. So, Kraft has 123 pats, 204 pats, and 205 pats. All with a letter of guaranteed quality from the Ruvenhagen Blacksmiths Guild. He offers to take the lot for 10.5 Ruminone, which Kraft says is too cheap. Only to be reminded again of the armor market crash and the fact that there's more iron available from melting down weapons and armor. This means that the market for nails has fallen as well, which Kraft notes is true for the southern region, but for the north, melting metal into nails would drive up the price of firewood. Since no one would want to incur the wrath of high firewood prices from the townsfolk, the price of nails is fine. It's still the same. The two haggle over the price of the nails, coming to an agreement of 14 3/4 ruminone in credit. Mark calls upon his apprentice Lanto to load the nails into his cart to sell at Hans the blacksmith's later. He asks Kraft if he'll be staying until the end of the festival, inviting him over for a drink and to meet Adele. Noticing Kraft is distracted, Mark asks if he's taken in by his store's beauty, knowing Kraft is a better merchant and will open a store bigger than his soon enough. That night, Holo uses the upcoming Redora festival as an excuse to pre-game drink for the night. Of course she would do that. She's glad she met Kraft, recounting how embarrassed he got at her flirting with him when they first met and started travelling together, while Kraft says she's drinking much more now. Yep. Both true. Holo still thinks it would be easier to get by in her wolf form and still getting wolf facts wrong, but she's enjoying her human body. Kraft reminds her that she let down her guard when getting drunk in her human form, to which she calls him a fool, only to forgive him when he tells her to drink. It's like, go on, get your alcohol in. Before Holo passes out from drinking, Kraft asks her about possible clues to Yoitsu, since they have no useful map to find it, and there might not be a straight line to the village. Thinking for a moment, Holo remembers Hira, which Kraft knows about because of its famous hot springs, as well as being home to a lot of archbishops and royalty. Holo and her brethren went there to heal their wounds back then, which was often, and with Kraft's merchant navigation skill, Holo points in a southwest direction. When Kraft asks how long it would take to get there, Holo explains it would take her 2 days in her wolf form. Knowing how fast Holo is at a sprint, he figures it would take a month to get to Yoitsu, which Holo is fine with as long as there's good food. Holo is more focused on the why than those Kraft worrying about the search area to find Yoitsu. So much so that he asks if they went to Hira, would Holo be able to find, or would Holo be able to go home from there? She says she can in a way that reminds him of what Holo said about loneliness before she got captured, making him freak out and say they would still have some traveling to do. It's like, we still have to get to the town that we want to get to. Kraft wants to help Holo all the way to Yoitsu, but Holo interrupts to say she's terrible because she'd be troubled if he helped too much. Holo explains to Kraft that human life goes by in the blink of an eye and asks him to not make the bad faces he does. She has gotten comfortable with being with him to the point of depending on him, but seemingly explains the way with her drunkenness. Episode 2. Let's go. And Kraft dreams about the moment Wolf Holo left him in the sewer towards the end of the 20 Silver arc. And a lot of season 2 is reminders of moments in season 1, because you gotta have those moments to build the characters up, and having them reflect on those moments also builds them up. Letting Holo sleep in, Kraft heads out to the market again to ask Mark about the chroniclers of Kumasan, because they collect various folktales. Mark asks if it's for a business opportunity, but Kraft says it's for his own personal interest, which Mark sees as a fun hobby. He directs Kraft to Guy Bartos, an older fellow who deals in metals and is described as fearless by Mark, but works with people Kraft should really avoid. Back at the inn, Holo eats her breakfast. While Kraft reads the letters delivered by Lanto from Mark. Giving one of the letters to Holo to read, it's revealed she doesn't know how to read because there are too many characters to remember and combinations of them. True. English is annoyingly difficult because we have weird rules like I after E. No. I after E except after C. I'm pretty sure it is. I think that's right. She tried learning how to read, but got annoyed and quit since she didn't need it to hunt prey. Which is very valid for a wolf. The letters talk about how this year's northern military expedition has been cancelled and to be cautious buying battle equipment. Imagine if they got that letter sooner. It would have been less embarrassing. It does get a chuckle out of Holo, wishing they had received that letter before they lost out, which Graf agrees with, saying that without information, merchants are like blindfolded soldiers in battle. It's like, where's the best deal? Oh, that's got some bruising. Today is the festival, which Holo is excited for, but Kraft has somewhere to visit first. Holo asks if it's okay if she goes alone, which she'll do even if he says no. So Kraft gives her a silver coin, worth less than the Trini silver. She slowly changes her mind on going to the festival alone, wanting to join Kraft on this business venture, but Kraft doesn't want to reveal what it's about. Kraft states that he might be seeing a second person somewhere else, and Holo will be left waiting outside the entire time. Right before Kraft leaves, Holo teases him by saying if there are 2 people in their room when he gets back, if he could leave for a while again. Over at the Rowan Trading Association building, Kraft is left waiting for Guy to show up when Fermi enters, so the two sit down for drinks. Kraft thanks Fermi again for getting him and Holo that room, and that Kraft ordered quite a bit of food then too, to which Kraft states that Holo and Fermi have a good eye for fish, in particular, the carp. I don't know if I've ever tried carp. I don't think I have. Fermi asks if Kraft is busy, disappointed to hear that Kraft is meeting with Guy because he wanted to show Kraft around town. Kraft mentions that Holo was nagging him to take her around town since the morning, and Fermi offers to show her around since he has no work today. Kraft is unsure if Holo has left the inn yet, and Fermi says he has to discuss the inventory restocking there, racing out to the inn. Clearly not seeing the vibes. Oh, that was a good bite. As Fermi leaves, Guy enters, and Kraft is stunned by Guy's build, as he dwarfs Kraft in height and muscle. Dude is like bodybuilder, but like the entire body is bodybuilder. But not really. I don't think bodybuilder is the best description. It's sort of like a mix between bodybuilder and the tallest guy in the world, almost. That is a lot of bruising right there. The two leave the Rowan trading building while talking about the legends of the North, with Guy explaining he has travelled between multiple regions as a merchant for decades, while Kraft remembers his recent journey from past life to now. Guy leads Kraft to a more decrepit part of the town that is closed off to the rest of the city because of the sulfur smell. Let's get out there. Okay. The bad and even poisonous smell is due to all the alchemy going on in the area, with only 20 alchemists being responsible. Man, somehow 20 alchemists smell worse than me. Kraft asks if there is a profit in dealing with alchemists, and Guy explains that instead of magic, alchemists' work is really in heating metal and using corrosive acids to melt metal. However, some of the alchemists in the district really do study magic, but it's just rumors. And it's interesting that they bring up magic, because it's not that the world doesn't have magic in it. It's like, it's almost like selective magic. Because I got Holo being able to transform into a wolf and a human form, but it's not really regarded as magic. Arriving at one building, Guy knocks on the door, and a lady named Dean Rubens answered. And she and Guy engage in some humour and flattery about her being a witch. Kraft introduces herself without knowing she's Dean, because Dean is a rather masculine name. Rather unfortunate to be called Dean. Inside, Kraft apologizes for his sudden arrival and says that he heard Dean's well versed in the legends of the North. Asking about a legend of a village of Yoitsu, Diana reveals that it was destroyed by a moon hunting bear, or Irawa Muhade Hende. The stories are quite old, but there are a few about the bear. But Kraft is more interested in Yoitsu's location. Dean remembers a town called called Renose that's situated at the base of the Rhone River, north of Prania, and an ancient tale of a giant wolf named Holo that's told there, which shocks Kraft. It's like, oh, there's conveniently a story that I need. As she recites the ancient tale, Kraft learns Holo came from the forests of the east and was on a journey towards the south, basically describing Holo for who she is. Dean explains that even while being hunted by the church, she loves ancient legends from pagan lands and not the ones altered by the church. After asking Kraft for a story, he shares the story of Paslow and how its wheat harvest was governed by Holo. Afterwards, Kraft tells Guy it's been a while since he got excited over the legends of dragons and magicians. Guy feels like he's always had an interest in those tales since he was a kid. Think about when he stopped being able to believe them. That night, Kraft turns to Mark and Lando to tell him about the city of Renose, and Mark reveals he got some information about Neahara. When Kraft says that something has changed, Mark says the rumors about a falling out between Kraft and Holo are true, or because Holo was wandering around with Fermi. Kraft explains that he was busy with business, and Fermi offered to take Holo out for the festival, which, combined with the fake nun backstory, is the whole situation about look. It's like, oh shoot, I look like I'm keeping the nun prisoner, which is not a good look. Mike wouldn't be able to sit around if he saw Adele with another man, but Adele surprises him that says she wouldn't do that. It's like, she is more loyal than you think, buddy. You might want to stop your words. Adele states that Kraft is both successful as a traveling merchant and gorgeous too, to which Mark says he'd burn up in flames of envy that Adele would use to bake an apple pie. Kraft leaves Mark with a warning about Fermi, because he's clearly fallen in love with Holo and will do anything to be with her. Holo returns to the inn room after Kraft, tired from being with Fermi the whole day, having to get Kraft to help her take her outer clothes off before collapsing asleep and in pain. The next morning, Holo explains that Fermi did buy her the fox scarf, which is like, that's high quality, but still loses to a tail. Accepting the gift from Fermi means Kraft has to repay him somehow, announcing he'll be pulling from the money he planned to give Holo for the festival for the repayment. Asking if Fermi asked Kraft about Kraft and Holo's relationship, Kraft uses the excuse that it would be bad if people start to get suspicious of them. Holo says she told Fermi that she's a traveling nun who Kraft rescued from some bad people about to sell her, as well as the large debt she took on Kraft with no way of paying him back except in prayer. Oh no. Kraft asks about the yellow cube he found last night, and Holo says that it's a die that shows someone their future. Holo thinks they could sell the die for a good price, but Kraft says it's a naturally forming rock with no particular use for it, and is sold as a souvenir. Yeah, you got duped. Kraft thinks there weren't many of them around, but Holo says there were a lot, which shocks Kraft. The fortune teller she got the pyrite die from. The fortune teller she got the pyrite die from was very accurate in using them, and that even Holo was amazed and told of many reasons to promote their sale. These include healing sickness, driving away demons, and awakening love. Fermi won the bid for the pyrite die amidst the chaotic auction. With how much pyrite there would have been for an auction, Kraft wonders if, through Guy's connection, it would be profitable for the pyrite. Lanto interrupts their conversation with a message for Kraft. A message that has Kraft sprinting to the Rowan Association building. Man, that's a fair bit of bruising on that. Moving into episode 3. Arriving at the Rowan Trading Association building, Fermi is there waiting for Kraft, wanting to repay the debt Holo owes and confess his love to her. Kraft notices Fermi's contract has a seal of blood and that he has a knife, knowing Fermi is being rather serious right now, saying Holo would still travel with him even if her debt was paid off. Trying to explain that since Holo is a nun, she wouldn't be allowed to get married, but Fermi knows Holo doesn't belong to any convert. Fermi also knows that according to Kumsan law, when a woman is in debt, her guardian is the creditor, and if Graf agrees to Fermi's marriage proposal, there's no need to have a contract. Apparently, Holo's debt is 1,020 silver, and Fermi promises to repay it by the next day before evening. If Kraft takes the deal, he won't accept any bargaining or loans, which Fermi agrees with. It's an easy deal, and Kraft accepts the deal. The entire building erupts in excitement and betting about what will happen tomorrow as both Kraft and Fermi leave. Outside, Kraft is confronted by Guy, who knows that Fermi has a distasteful way to get the 1,020 silver for Kraft, but isn't there to help. Kraft asks why Guy is letting him know, and it's just the fact that it's too harsh to take away anyone's traveling companion, no matter the reason. It's like, yeah, dude, it is probably the most disrespectful thing you could do to a person. Back at the inn, Holo asks what Kraft will do if Fermi really does pay the 1,020 silver. To which Kraft plans to give Holo the rest of the money after selling the true debt amount. So it's not 1,000. Kraft says that if Fermi really does pay, he'll keep up his end of the deal, knowing he can trust in Holo. Holo finds Kraft cuter when he's panicking, but he's focused on how much he's grown himself. She notes that Kraft seems to be more smug about the potential winnings from the deal, and that Kraft could have refused Fermi's contract as well, acting out the other possibility if she was the one offered the deal. Kraft says that's definitely a way to deal with the contract situation, and Holo says that's a way a youngster without caution would handle it. With that thought process in the mix, Holo says the two behaviors may not be able to mix. Asking how Holo would deal with the contract, she would accept it before returning to the inn and kneeling in front of Kraft. Ooh. She believes Kraft agreed because it's a good gamble, while also making moves in the shadows like backdoor dealings and misinformation. Kraft interprets this as Holo wanting to go to the festival, which would be a way to show Fermi he's not tying Holo down with the debt she owes. Outside, Holo plays up the none shackled by a debt role to Mark, saying she'd be happy to dirty herself with flour, which shows Mark that Kraft is really the one that's being tied down. It's like, Lanto returns to Mark to report there are 200 Erindor coins in taxes recorded in the ledger. This means that Fermi has 827 in assets, as far as the city council knows. Kraft asks Mark about the types of gambling in Crimson, of which there's cards, dice, and hare and hounds. While the topic of gambling is in discussion... What? Okay, that was weird. While the topic of gambling is in discussion, there's bets going on about who Holo would go with if Fermi does pay the 1,020 silver, with Kraft having an advantage of a 1.2 to 1 payoff. Mark tries to learn what's really going on, only to get jumped by Holo giving her answer right behind his ear, that some questions can't be answered easily. Like the purity of Mark's flour. Good on ya, Lando, you revealed the secret. Kraft figures the best choice of action is to observe Fermi's actions directly, much like how Fermi would do to him. Mark has heard that Fermi was the heir of a rich family, but left it to come to Kummerson and be a merchant, while also looking down on other merchants for how they make connections with each other. Really? Holo compares Fermi's behaviour to being a heroic knight, which Kraft and Mark agree with. Mark saying that's possibly why he fell for Holo. Also, the women of Kummerson have a strong connection with each other, and Fermi wouldn't be able to handle that. It's like, yeah. Kraft asks Mark to keep gathering information, explaining that Guy believes Fermi has a way to collect the funds. While Kraft is deep in thought and Holo enjoys her bread, they hear a shepherd's horn in the distance. Holo asks what Kraft would do if Nora had followed them to Kummerson, and Kraft would just agree that it's normal human decency to just greet someone. She says that if Kraft doesn't look flustered, it'll look like she's trying to win Kraft over. However, it's just the announcement sound for the start of the festival, and now that Holo is too short to see over the crowd, it's like she's actually having to try and jump up to see over. So Kraft brings them back to their in-room to watch from above. Which is actually pretty smart. During the festival, a straw structure of a wolf catches her attention, as many of these animal structures are walked through the festival. Part of the festival has brewers with wine barrels spraying wine over the audience. Honestly, the type of festival I would enjoy. And them joining in as musicians play. Holo and Kraft decide to head down to join the festivities, which isn't really shown in the episode, but can be seen in the opening for the season. So, like, it's weird how the opening has details that isn't shown in the show. Well, no, it's actually rather normal for that, but it's like, it fills the context, like, the opening actually fills in the context of the show, which is weird to sort of see sometimes. Because openings aren't really about being able to use them to fill context in the show. They're more, this is what the anime is. Several hours later, when drunk people show how impressive they are to get into a tree and not fall out of it after getting hammered. Which, honestly, the fact that people can climb a tree while drunk and just leap in it. Oh, I wonder if that's ever happened in real life. just climbs, drunk person climbs tree, gets in the branch and just falls asleep. Like, full squirrel. Meanwhile, Kraft gives Holo a piggyback ride back to their in-room so she can fall asleep as soon as she lands on the bed. The innkeeper brings a letter to Kraft from Mark, and Kraft plans to go talk to Mark instead of reading it when Holo wakes again. She notes that the letter is female-centered, asking if Kraft is keeping secrets from her, so Kraft reveals he met someone that knows the legends from the north to ask about Yoitsu. He says she knew of a legend about Holo from Renose, that it spoke of which direction Holo came from on her journey south. Holo seems saddened by the fact that Kraft hid this information from her, wishing he had told her sooner. Kraft apologizes for keeping it a secret from her, hoping the letter held additional information to the location of Yoitsu. Again, Holo seems sullen at the realization that Kraft will soon be narrowing down the location of Yoitsu, meaning there won't be much time left to be around him. Kraft announces he's going to talk to Mark, leaving Holo the letter to potentially read, if she knew how to. Mark notes how calm Kraft is for someone asking for others' help, but thanks to Kraft and his own free time, Mark is making a fair bit of money. He immediately figured it out as soon as Kraft mentioned that it was a guy that had an idea of what the scheme was, which turns out to be pyrite fortune telling. The fortune teller has already left town because she supposedly attracted the attention of the Inquisition. If the church had come, the town would be in mayhem, along with too much pyrite being around. Mark believes she bought in bulk from another town and left it once it was sold out. And with the amazing sales pitch from her, the church wants the pyrite, and in turn the value is skyrocketing, with just one piece being worth $270 right now, and will rise even more tomorrow when the market opens. Which is that's interesting. that the church wants pyrite. It's not that valuable, but because they heard of this really good sales pitch, it's like, oh, we want this now because people are buying it in bulk. We want to profit off this one thing. The women of Kumrasun are going crazy for the pyrite and are competing over how much they can get the wealthy to spend on them. Each plead raising the pyrite price. This price hike means that Fermi can sell some pyrite for massive amounts of money. And Mark explains he's already made 300 irida in the short amount of time he's been at it. The entire marketplace knows already, all while Kraft and Holo were dancing, and Kraft announces he's failed as a merchant. Mark says Kraft will be fine, and if he does fail, he'll have the money to buy a new princess, especially when Kraft takes Mark's pyrite using the credit for the nails. It's like, my money. Mark asks if everything's okay between Kraft and Holo, since it looks like Fermi might be able to pay off Holo's debt. Kraft states that with the money from the deal, he'll be able to make more profit and believes Holo will continue traveling with him. He returns to the end room to learn Holo can actually read, seeing her crying because she has no home to return to. It's like, so you lied. Saying that legends are sometimes inaccurate, he explains he didn't tell her at the time because the topic is super sensitive. Valid reason to not tell someone that their entire town got destroyed. Holo continues crying about having been running around carefree without knowing what happened to Yoitsu for ages. Kraft knew all along, which to her explains a lot of things. The fact that Kraft likes weak, pitiable lambs, that her foolishness must have been cute to him, and he told her to go back alone once they reach near Hira because he's tired of her. Kraft hugs her, but when Holo asks what she is to him, and if he mates with her, if he mate with her, like, oh my gosh. Not wanting to be the last of her kind. The final nail in the coffin of Holo's complete separation from Kraft is the very deal of 1,020 silver and how calm he is. The separation becomes physical and Kraft leaves the room without a word to her to cry outside. Oh, we're breaking family, we're breaking up relationships left, right, and center. As we enter episode 4. The festival continues late into the night with the wolf straw structure being rammed into the human straw structure, destroying public property on accident. It's like, who knew hay could actually be a destructive force? Other dangers of the festival are shown, like the potential of dehydration and falling objects. However, Kraft is thinking about what happened between him and Holo earlier, and what Holo and Fermi could have been saying about him when they were alone earlier. Kraft decides to visit Mark. When Mark just roasts him for letting down his guard, and Kraft agrees. It's just like, bro, you just fudged up. Of all questions, Kraft asks which way the wind is blowing, because the day-to-day market trends are unpredictable to him. Mark tells Kraft to stop trying to give up on trying to predict the day-to-day market, as the auction placards go up the more they're sold, saying you'd have to be an omnipotent god to stop it. So Kraft decides to do just that, and catch Fermi off guard with an unpredictable price drop. Only having one day to pull this off, it's... There's no way you could do that in one day, though. Citizens are showing off their pyrite to their friends, saying that there's rumors of its value doubling by tomorrow, while Kraft listens in. He then sees Fermi and Holo looking at each other from the front door and window of the inn, respectively. As Fermi leaves, Kraft notices Holo staring right at him before stepping away from the window. Entering the inn, Kraft envisions himself and Holo sitting and talking, and when going back to his room, the innkeeper says he has a letter from Holo for Kraft. Turns out that Holo learnt of Fermi's assets from him, and got the innkeeper to write the letter to let Kraft know, as well as Fermi's contract, which Holo signed. Outraged, Fermi demands all the cash he stored at the inn from the innkeeper and searches for Fermi. Not caring for anyone he annoys. Welcome. Well, hello, welcome to the stream. I'm almost done with this section. I'm on the last episode that I'm talking about Spice and Wolf. I'm trying to get through this as quick as possible because I have other stuff that I want to get to. But I'm doing good. I am doing good. As I said, I'm just trying to get through this to get to the more fun stuff today. Finding Fermi at a bar, Kraft keeps his cool and wants to discuss business, which has Fermi wary but agreeing. Being direct, Kraft wants to sell Fermi some pyrite for 520 silver, the current market value, which angers Fermi and makes him believe the rumors that Kraft would give up Holo for money. Kraft says he still cares for Holo, saying that Fermi truly is a knight, and explains he doesn't want to do a simple sale, but on credit, wanting to sell Fermi the 520 silver of pyrite tomorrow evening at the marketplace, at the market price it is now, while also wanting the payment now. It's confusing. Fermi thinks over both possibilities of the price rise and fall, knowing either way he'll receive the 520 silver worth of pyrite, while also quickly catching on to Kraft's scheme, planning to potentially put himself in debt, like back with Lemurio Trading or Remerio Trading. Nah. Understanding the deal, Fermi knows his profits will go up if the pyrite's value increases, but if it goes down, Fermi will be at a measurable loss. Kraft disrupts Fermi's thought process to say he's challenging Fermi to a duel of money. but Fermi knows he doesn't have to take the jewel by selling some pyrite before any price drop. Fermi figures that since he could reach his goal with only a slight increase in pyrite value, the deal would be too unfair for Kraft. But Kraft doesn't mind the disadvantage, because there's still the possibility that Holo will tear up the contract. He talks about how Holo has cried in his arms 3 times in their travels, saying she's cute but stubborn, and that she says things she doesn't mean. This pushes Fermi over the edge into accepting Kraft's challenge, wanting to strip Kraft of all of his possessions for bad-mouthing Holo. Back with Mark, Kraft asks him to wait until the end of the festival, when the wheat sales pick up, to spread a rumor through Lanto by saying, "I guess it's time for wheat prices to go up." Kraft knows that the people buying pyrite are in town to sell their wares, then buy something else to take back with them, most commonly wheat. If the rumor works, they sell off the pyrite and buy what they came to commission for, which will make the price of pyrite fall and eventually be worth nothing. Kraft calls Kraft simple-minded, to which Kraft adds that he plans to sell 1,020 silvers worth of pyrite in the selling madness. It's like, what? Not caring about the price drop, Mark asks if Kraft has lost it, but as long as Kraft has the 520 silvers worth of pyrite by the end, no matter how much the price changes, he doesn't lose out. Kraft asks if that's all, but Kraft wants Mark to also buy up the pyrite because he didn't get a chance to find a buyer in time, but plans to influence the town merchants to each buy a little. One buys a large amount. Kraft will pay them in Rumine it's almost similar to Hermione in spelling. Rumine gold, and also promises to pay Mark in cash for his services, but Mark refuses the deal. Kraft tries to convince him into the plan, saying there's no risk to buying the pyrite through his connections. But Mark says that he's a town merchant, not a traveling merchant. Mark explains that a town merchant looking for easy money profit has accepted that their primary business will take a nosedive, and for him in particular, it's not just the reputation of the store, but his family and regular customers at stake too. Kraft wouldn't be able to offer enough to mitigate the risk of Mark getting involved, and they both understand each other's reasons for their actions. That's when Kraft reveals that Holo signed Fermi's marriage contract, and all it needs is Kraft's signature. With Mark and the town merchants off the table, Kraft says he'll go to Guy for help next, which might help since Guy knows Dean, who who seemingly controls the district in communication with the alchemists. If the alchemists have and need pyrite, Kraft could make trades without disrupting the market with them. When Kraft says that information is profit alone, Mark realizes he could have pulled some strings for potential buyers by leaking out the information leaking out the amount of money Kraft has. Kraft gets his confidence back, making Mark comment that he's so predictable it's cute, and that's when even Holo might do something bold if she saw it. He runs out of the market to find Guy as quickly as possible to enact his plan. And that's where episode 4 ends. And that's where my podcast episode will end for this part. It's a bit... Is it really bruising? Anyways, I am going to end this podcast episode here. For YouTube, links will be in the description to both the channels and the Twitch figures. Go check out. Don't forget to subscribe with the notification bell so you know when the next video comes out. A ding. I'm Psycrafter out.